Venezuela currently suffers food and medicine shortages, exacerbated by an economic blockade and sweeping US sanctions. The opposition and the government in Venezuela are currently wrangling over US aid. Guaido claims he's been able to get deliveries into the country, though President Nicolas Maduro has blocked some, saying the convoys are a cover for a US invasion. The Russian foreign minister has expressed a similar concern. Well, live now to Roman Kotarev for more on that.
Both the US and Russia have presented draft resolutions on Venezuela to the UN Security Council. Now, Washington's version calls for international aid deliveries, while Moscow's criticizes any attempts to intervene in the country's sovereignty. Sergei Lavrov defended Russia's draft and branded US allegations that it's aimed at disrupting humanitarian aid to the country a lie. The Russian foreign minister added that the UN Security Council is unlikely to accept Washington's resolution on Venezuela.
The US draft resolution on Venezuela is aimed at concealing a planned provocation as humanitarian aid and would destabilize the country. It might even provide a pretext for military intervention. The UN Security Council will never accept this kind of resolution.
Sergei Lavrov said he's planning to discuss Venezuela with the EU's top diplomat Federica Mogherini in the upcoming days. Mogherini headed the EU delegation at a Venezuela contact group conference in Uruguay that was designed to foster dialogue. The result, however, was a one-sided document, according to Lavrov.
The contact group that the EU created with Latin American states has approved a document that contains no ultimatums, which had initially been proposed by some EU members, but rather focuses on unilateral support for the opposition.
The US State Department asked the Russian Foreign Ministry to organize a telephone meeting on Tuesday. Sergei Lavrov said the issue of Venezuela could come up in the conversation with his American counterpart, Mike Pompeo.
Washington's efforts in the South American country are led by Elliott Abrams. His appointment as the US envoy to Venezuela has surprised many, given his previous track record in Latin America. Back in 2002, Abrams was the suspect architect of a coup attempt in Venezuela. While in the 1980s, then a member of the Reagan administration, he funneled weapons through Iran to Nicaraguan right-wing rebels. He was also accused of using humanitarian aid planes to disguise weapons shipments to militias.
Assistant Secretary of State Elliott Abrams has defended his role in authorizing the shipment of weapons on a humanitarian aid flight to Nicaraguan rebels, saying the operation was strictly by the book.
We have to consider that Trump's czar, who's in charge of his Venezuelan policy right now, is Elliott Abrams, who pioneered the strategy of using humanitarian aid as a disguise for delivering weapons to U.S. proxy forces, first during the wars on Central America, the proxy wars, during which Elliott Abrams was overseeing several death squads and their genocidal humanitarian violations. The Venezuelans see this aid delivery, especially in the light of Abrams' history of using aid as a cover for delivering arms to proxy forces, as a violation of Venezuelan sovereignty, as an actual U.S. invasion of Venezuela. And so in many ways, this is seen as a Trojan horse for U.S. invasion.